This story is dating back to early days of ABC, maybe 2, 3 years into the journey. And through Twitter, so this is kind of uncommon 13 years ago. Right now, it's maybe not quite an impressive story.
Right.
But 13 years ago, this was kind of weird. Knew some people on Twitter that knew of my work. My work was going viral on Twitter, things like that. And a guy that had freelanced with Nike kept asking me to come speak at a motion graphics meetup in Portland. Well, I'm newly out on my own. I'm thinking to myself, every day I'm in Portland, I am not making money. This can't happen. Like, I need to be making money. I can't just leave and go be in Portland. But he was persistent, and he was like, well, I can get you meetings at Nike. And I was like, okay, but if you don't, you know? But I had been doing some speaking for Maxon Cinema 4D, which was a 3D software that we use quite a bit at our studio. And I had spoken at various conferences, South by Southwest, NAB in Las Vegas, things like that. So I had a good relationship with them. And so I thought to myself, what if they could pay for my trip to speak, and I'm showing the work that I'm doing in Cinema 4D? So I hit them up. They paid for the trip. I was like, okay, at least that's not an expense that I have to be concerned about. That's taken care of. And then if he can't get me the Nike meetings, I won't be as like devastated because I at least got part of the bill covered. So I go out there. He comes through. He gets me a meeting at Nike. And the person that I met with was the right person. So I extended my stay, and that person got me like 4 other meetings in 4 other departments at Nike. Landed a project on the spot with Nike. And so stoked, right? But the further we got into the project, the more I realized, man, this is kind of just for an internal PowerPoint presentation to show the higher ups, isn't it? And I had no clue that Nike did stuff like that, you know? I'm going into it like so stoked. And the project kept getting dumbed down. It doesn't need to be that good. It doesn't need to be that cool. Oh, okay. That's weird. And so turned the project in, felt like I probably can't and shouldn't show this ever because it wasn't very good work. Like it had, been...
Because they were limiting what it could be.
Yeah, it was just, they were trying to kind of tease it, sell it, and maybe, market test it, things like that. It wasn't a high priority project. And that was kind of the end of my Nike experience. And I was like, wow, I thought that like doing something for Nike would be like the pinnacle, And I don't know if I can even tell anybody or should tell anybody that I've worked with Nike at this point because I'm not super proud of how it turned out. It was an internal project. It's never going to see the light of day. This is going to be the pinnacle of my career. Like, this sucks, But I had met with like 4 other people. So I just kept bugging them and I kept sending them updates. They wouldn't return my emails. And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know the time frame, 2 years later maybe, I get hit up to work on the Kobe 8 basketball shoe release. And I got to work on that for several months with them. And then that led to a lot of others. I worked on Kyrie Irving. I worked on running shoes, training shoes, you name it. And so then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I feel like the work that I'm doing as ABC is really cool work. And I didn't want to try and hire people to come in and do a bunch of like grunt work and be like, aren't you guys stoked to work here? We got some cell phones to spend today, Right. But I was like, no, this is cool work. I feel like I could find some people to help me at this point do some of this really cool work. And so that was kind of like some of the beginnings there. And it's just, I think the persistence of like, I had nothing to lose. I had a family to feed. I just kept emailing them. I wasn't shy. I wasn't bashful. Funny story. The advertising space, particularly around brands and products, it's a very much a don't call me, I'll call you relationship.
Okay.
So I've continued to email some of those same people for the last 12, 13 years. And some of them never get a response from them ever. And then, like, right before the Olympics, I send out an email to this guy that I'm like, he doesn't respond to me, but once a year, I'm just going to send him stuff. He responds. He's like, I've been keeping up with all the work. It looks amazing. I got something for the Olympics we want you to work on. I've been just keeping in contact with this guy for 12 years, hearing nothing from him whatsoever. And so it's just kind of wild. But that whole story, like, people would have looked at the original ask from a guy I don't actually know on Twitter, taking, the risk of flying out there, and maybe he gets me 0 meetings at Nike. And then once you actually land it, it's not a very exciting, sexy gig. That could have been the end, and that could have been it.
And then it turned into just a great working relationship.
Yeah.
So was the Kobe 8 video?
That particular one wasn't a video. That was working on what they call the hero image or the key visual. Yeah.
Okay. So was there a video that you made that went viral to the point where it changed everything?
There've been a few. Yeah.
What was the first one where you went, holy crap, I've got something?
Well, in the early days, when I was just learning Cinema 4D, it wasn't video, it was a still image. But it was one of the first times I used Cinema 4D. And again, this was when Twitter was like infancy, like everybody would retweet everything back then. And so I created this artwork, and it was the word collide, and it was made out of 3D typography. And it went viral for that moment on Twitter. I get an email from the CEO of Maxon. And the first thing that I'm thinking is, he knows I have stolen software. I'm in big trouble. But it wasn't. He was actually he was saying how much he loved it and thought it was amazing. And he wanted to know if I'd be willing to speak at South by Southwest. And he'll actually be at the party Saturday.
Oh, epic.
He's a huge part of my story, and this is giving me the confidence to keep going and learning more and doing 3D animation and things like that.
That's cool. So I'm sure you've seen, areas of opportunity throughout the years in probably both the advertising space and just kind of marketing as a whole.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now in advertising or marketing that is just wrong? Like, people are just making a mistake with how they're going about either design or their process.
Well, I touched on it earlier. Staffing's an issue. It's a known issue. We've had almost like a battle within our industry where there was a time where studios, particularly Los Angeles and New York, were just burning people out. And you would have super talented people who were done with this industry by the time they're like 28, 29 years old. And I was, I guess, like a late bloomer. Like, I didn't even start ABC until I was 33, 34 years old, something like that. And here I am just starting ABC, and people are burnt out 6 years before my age, that I'm jumping into this. And so a lot of it was, mismanagement, not respecting people's time, their private lives, the things they want to do. And I did not, I'm not going to color code it, but I didn't raise and bring ABC up by working 40 hours a week. We've already covered this. I was working a lot, but I didn't want my employees to do that because this is not their business. And I wasn't going to put that on them. That's my problem. That's not theirs. And so we've always kept things 40, 45-hour work week. If we have to, interfere with your time, we're going to give you as much heads up as possible. We're going to pay you overtime, or we're going to give you comp time like the next week as soon as possible. And so those have been some of the standards that we've had. And as a result, I've got a team of senior motion designers that are mid 30s to early 40s now, which are defying the norm, because it ends up being a game of producers, creative directors, and executive producers that are in their 40s burning out 20 somethings to actually get the work done. And so thankfully we've got a great team, and they appreciate not having the burnout. And I've always viewed it as, I love having a great team, and I feel like if I can take care of that team, that allows me to take care of the clients. Whereas a lot of business owners, they'll take care of the clients, they'll just find another team if they need to.
Yeah, I actually think that's such an important point, because there's different stages of it, right? Like, take corporate America out of it, because corporate America, they've got their own mess that they're dealing with. But for companies like ours, in theory, it should be a better work experience because you're small and nimble, and losing somebody makes a much larger impact to our company than maybe a Fortune 500 company, right? But in the startup phase, you're just like out there just grinding, like you said, right? There's too much to do and not enough people. And so you have to find ways to make it so that your team wants to be there. The culture is, super important. This is somewhat of a tangent, but I just made a video about this place this morning. So frustrated, right? We roll up, and this is back-to-back Airbnb. So I'm like hot on Airbnb.
I saw your Airbnb
right
rant. I'm like, oh, he got another one.
I got another one
Shame
back-to-back. So I'm just going to use this moment to just highlight where they're missing it. Because even though it's not clients, it's customers, right? And it's like something like the grass out front. Cut the freaking grass. This is such an easy thing to do. Cut the grass, right? There was no soap, no shampoo, no nothing. And we had to go to Target to go buy that. This is bad client experience. It makes the client not want to come back, right? You also have that with your employees. If you're creating an environment that's miserable, you've got a lifespan on your team, and you also have a max on what they're willing to give to it.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a business, especially when you're competing against other businesses. If they do that part right, they have a team that wants to be there, that's excited, that's motivated. They're going to put out better products or services.
Yes.
I think that one's really important, and I don't think it's easy to do.
Yeah.
That one, just thinking about our company, the culture side, we have to work hard on. That part is just hard to do right, but it's really important.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest investment that you've made in your business that paid off was?
I mean, in creative services, it's always going to be the people.
Yeah.
So investing in the people, making sure you can pay them as much as you can. I have this saying, I don't know, you might have some thoughts on it. Would love to hear it. But I always say, you never want to work for a cheap boss, because they're not going to spend money on you if they don't spend money on anything else. And so I think you want to try to, take care of the people that are there, because it is harder to find people.
Yeah.
And it is harder to attract talent too if word gets out.